Hey everybody, so today we finally got a video on a mod for a game that is not Half-Life with AWP, or A Week in Paradise. AWP is a mod for Postal 2, which I'm sure many people who end up watching this video are probably familiar with, but in case you're not, it's an open world FPS that came out in the early 2000s and stirred up a sizable amount of controversy due to its graphic violence and heavy usage of cultural stereotypes that are widely considered offensive. It's gathered a pretty decent cult following over the past 20 years and is a staple of video game retrospective or documentary channels here on YouTube since the extreme nature of its content makes it pretty good fodder for a video. The basic setup of the story is that you're just a random dude who lives in a trailer in Arizona with a wife he hates and who hates him in return. The story takes place over the span of 5 days, with the frame being that at the beginning of each day, your wife gives you a to-do list of innocuous tasks that start out as seemingly mundane tasks that almost always deteriorate into violence. What AWP is a mod that serves as like a kind of definitive version of the game. Most of the mods on this channel that I've covered have been fan-made expansions and one gameplay revamp, but this one is more of a massive QOL update that aims to enhance, rather than drastically alter, the core experience of the game. The main way it does this is by integrating the levels and weapons from the first expansion pack, Apocalypse Weekend, into the base set of levels. This means that a lot of the stuff added in the expansion is no longer tied to being exclusively found in those levels, but you can instead come across in the main game's open world. There's also several custom weapons that the mod adds, most of which kind of break the game's balancing, but if you've played Postal 2, then you probably know that balanced combat isn't really what the OG devs were going for in the first place. Within the Postal 2 fanbase, AWP is a pretty noteworthy mod due to how popular it was on release. It kinda quickly became the go-to way to play the game for a lot of people due to how much it expands the game's sandbox. Matter of fact, its popularity was so much that Running with Scissors, the game's devs, actually included it in a deluxe edition of the game that was packaged with another popular mod, Eternal Damnation. Since Postal 2 has come to Steam, a lot of the additions and fixes that AWP adds have since been integrated into the retail product, and several of the people behind the mod later went on to work at RWS themselves. So that's the general synopsis of the mod and a bit of backstory surrounding it. Now here's what I personally thought about it. Since AWP is much more subtle in aim and scope than a lot of the other mods I've covered on this channel, it's kinda hard for me to say what my opinion on it is without just mostly echoing my opinion on the base game. Luckily, I've never made a video on the base game, so I won't be repeating myself here. When it comes to Postal 2, I've got a bit of what you might call a hot take. I know this game is well loved by a lot of people, but personally I never really cared for it all that much. I was interested in it for a long time. I think the first I ever heard of it was on a Wikipedia article listing video games that had zombies in them. I had a phase in like 5th grade where I was obsessed with zombie related stuff, and since the expansion has Zeds, it came up in a lot of my searches because it was still a recent release at the time. From there I continued to hear about it over the years. It was a pretty usual suspect for listicles about the most controversial game ever made, so it always had this mystique to me as being this really edgy and raunchy game. I finally bought it in I think 2015. I was still using 4chan at the time, and everyone there was non-stop belating the game, and the Paradise Lost expansion had just come out, so I grabbed it on sale and played through it, and I didn't think it was really that good. For the most part, the game's sense of humor just kinda grates on me. I don't mind off-color jokes, but something about some of the stuff in this game just always felt kind of mean-spirited to me, plus most of it doesn't really seem to have anything in the way of what you could call a punchline. I don't know, man, maybe I just gotta stick up my ass, but it seems like the comedy is supposed to come from the fact that they're just trying to be as offensive as possible as opposed to actually having a joke that they're trying to tell. I'm not trying to play the whole virtuous YouTuber here to tell you that your favorite game is problematic or some bullshit, and the humor between me and my friends isn't exactly highbrow, but I was just rolling my eyes at this game a lot more than I was laughing. With that being said, there are a few standout moments that got a laugh out of me. The joke with the pigeon mission getting cut due to budget reasons and the whole episode with the game publisher with the Gold Master were pretty funny. The other big issue I had was with the gameplay itself. I just don't really think Postal 2 is that great as a shooter. Most of the enemies are really bullet spongy, they don't have any feedback to getting shot or taking damage, and a lot of the guns feel really underpowered. The biggest offender is the shotgun, which is just terrible. There's also no real enemy variety to speak of, at least until the weekend when you start fighting zombies and elephants for some reason. That's pretty funny too, not gonna lie. Anytime you get into a shooting segment in the game, it's just the same pattern of trying to tank hit scans from laser-accurate peds with guns while you unload onto them and hope they die first. None of the design of any of the combat sections is really conducive to creating fun shootouts. Ever since I played this game back in the day, I've always felt like Postal 2 is a game that's carried more by its reputation than anything else, something that people like because of the meme potential it has. I get that the game is fun to goof off in, but for me personally, there's only so many times I can light the marching band on fire before I just get bored. Also, the experience with this mod on my end was extra janky because Postal 2 had some technical issues on launch, and this mod is using all the files from the original release, so it inherits all of those issues. It crashed a lot for me, which made recording this even more frustrating, plus this weird thing where OBS wouldn't get footage past the title screen, which led to the first batch of video I got looking like this.
Go see Vince. I was pretty hungover yesterday, but I think I remember where I work.
Okay, I actually really like this unintentionally hellish imagery we got going on here. I mean, listen to this shit. Fuck, man, now that's creepypasta fodder if I've ever seen it. Despite everything I've said in this video, I can't shake the feeling that I'm doing something wrong here. Like, is there something I'm missing with this game? People love this fucking thing. It's one of the highest rated games on Steam, and every comment section on YouTube is full of people deep-throating it. Am I stupid? I used to be a lot less charitable, in my opinion, of this phenomenon. I was pretty confident that 90% of the fan base for this game was like try-hard teenagers who thought playing the game made them part of a secret club, something that the subreddit and 4chan presence does not argue against, but I feel like that's not a good enough explanation for how popular this game is. Two YouTubers who I really like, Civi11 and Charlatan Wonder, both chill for this game, and my views on games generally align with theirs, except Charlatan Wonder hates Doom Eternal, which can't relate there, but you know, whatever. There's also another guy called a Buff Wizard who makes videos exclusively about Postal 2, and when I watch those, it looks fucking fun, and I'm just like, what am I not getting here? Is there a hidden box you have to tick in the options menu that says activate the fun mode? I mean, there's a few things about this game that I do appreciate. There's a lot of hidden nooks and crannies around the map that have cool secrets in them, so the game definitely encourages exploration. Plus, it's a really cool time capsule of early 2000s American culture, complete with all its excesses and neuroticisms. I also really like the Postal dude as a character. Rick Hunter does a great job voice acting him, and he has some awesome one-liners. His whole presentation in the game is great, this kind of representation of the most misanthropic, antisocial aspects of the country's psyche. He's basically the American id, a vaguely violent, sometimes borderline psychotic dude who's trying to do everything he can to make enough money to pay off his bills and have enough left over for crack cocaine. Despite my misgivings about Postal 2, I'm actually interested to try out the first one in that Boomer Shooter spin-off they did recently. Postal 3 I'm gonna put off for as long as I can, and Postal 4 doesn't interest me that much, but I'm willing to give the other games a shot. Well, I guess this video ended up being more about Postal 2 itself than A Week in Paradise, but the mod was more a means to an end for me to talk about the game itself anyway. Maybe I'll do a video on the full game someday, but I'm mostly focusing on games that I've never played before right now since I'm going through my backlog, but we'll see. Anyway, that's this week's mod video, so I better get back to trying to beat the next full game I'm planning on doing a video on. I just gotta find the space to fit it in since I've got all these hyper-violent errands to run. I don't really like how you can't go to the grocery store without getting into a gunfight anymore, but hey, that's just where we're at. Hey everybody, if you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thanks, it means a whole lot. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all your standard YouTube outro stuff that you always hear, and other than that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.